Welcome everyone to this deep dive on licensing for the Power Platform and its associated products. It's like one of the most detailed guides out there. We're talking about everything from Power Apps and Power Automate to Copilot Studio, Power Pages, AI Builder, Dataverse, and even those tricky multiplexing rules.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive amount of detail. So let's start with an overview. The guide breaks down how to buy licensing, right? It sorts out, the channels for purchase, including enterprise agreements, direct purchase from Microsoft and partners.
Right? And it's structured in a way where you first learn how to buy, then it dives into product licensing for Power Apps, Power Automate, Copilot Studio, and Power Pages. It also details additional resources and even has a change log.
Yeah, that's a ton of info. What's interesting is how the licensing model splits into subscription-based and pay-as-you-go licensing. For instance, with Power Apps, you have premium licenses, which let a user run unlimited custom apps and Power Pages websites, versus the per app options, which are more targeted, like licensing each app individually.
Right, exactly. It's like um, for companies that need a one license fits all, the premium license is a neat option at around $20 per user per month, or even lower when you get volume deals. And then you have Power Apps per app licenses, perfect for organizations with a couple of leading use cases.
I noticed that even within Power Apps licensing, they mention that a single user might end up with multiple per app licenses if the same app exists in different environments. That detail really highlights the complexity.
Yeah, it's that stacking nuance. Now, if we jump to Power Automate, it mirrors a similar approach. There's Power Automate Premium, which includes both cloud flows using API-based automation and desktop flows for the attended RPA bots. And then there are other licenses like Power Automate Process for unattended RPA and even hosted process licenses that include Microsoft
Exactly, it's
hosted
pretty
machine
robust.
capacity.
But let me challenge one point. Don't you think the separation between attended and unattended RPA can sometimes be a bit confusing? I mean, for a newcomer, distinguishing between the premium user license and needing an extra hosted
That's a fair
process
critique.
license
It
might be
really is
daunting.
complex, and customers definitely need to work closely with the Microsoft account team to get it right. Moving on to Microsoft Copilot Studio, it's a whole other beast. Copilot Studio focuses on building, customizing, and deploying AI-enabled agents. There are both pay-as-you-go meters based on messages and message pack subscriptions. For instance, one pack equals 25,000 messages per month.
Amazing detail right there. And what's cool is that messages in Copilot Studio are the currency for all its operations. Agents consume messages based on whether they deliver classic answers or the more dynamic generative answers. And the pricing scales accordingly, with things like one message for a classic answer and two for a generative answer.
Right? It's a very consumption-based model. Then there's Power Pages licensing. It's pretty interesting because it distinguishes between authenticated and anonymous users. Authenticated user licensing is set up with capacity packs, each pack giving you licensing coverage for 100 users per month, with tiered pricing that drops the cost significantly
Yeah,
if you go
exactly.
large scale.
In contrast, anonymous user licenses come in packs for 500 users. So for a business with a high volume of visitors who don't need to log in, the anonymous capacity packs are a cost-effective solution.
Right? And it's pretty smart. The guide even outlines pay-as-you-go meters for these scenarios too. Now, over to AI Builder. This one is licensed on a monthly capacity basis through service credits, and every capacity pack gives you 1 million credits. And what's cool is that different AI operations like text generation, image classification, OCR, and translation consume credits at different rates.
It's really granular. Exactly. The rate card breaks it down with equivalencies per 1,000 tokens or per image. Something like, for instance, GPT-4 based text creation might take up 20 credits per 1K input tokens and 60 for output tokens.
Yeah, it's pretty detailed. This level of granularity is key for budgeting AI workloads. Then we have the Dataverse part, which underpins all these solutions. The licensing guide explains that every tenant gets default capacity, like 10 GB for database capacity and 20 GB for file capacity, and then additional capacity accrues with licenses such as Power Apps Premium and Power Automate Premium.
Right? That's essential for customers who have heavy data needs. I found it the example where they calculate tenant-wide capacity based on a combination of licenses really illustrative. It shows a customer with 10 Power Apps Premium and 20 per app licenses ending up with a total of 13.5 GB of database capacity.
Yeah, it's like math, but with data capacity. There's also coverage on Dataverse capacity add-ons, which customers can purchase in increments, like 1 GB for $40 per month for additional database capacity. And don't even get me started on capacity meters for Dataverse in pay-as-you-go environments. It's $48 per additional GB.
Absolutely, that really underlines the cost management side. I also noticed the guide explains multiplexing, which is important because it essentially clarifies that pooling connections or using middleware doesn't reduce the number of required licenses. So every user or device, whether they access directly or indirectly, must be appropriately licensed.
Yeah, that's a critical point. Multiplexing can be a trap if you misinterpret it. Exactly. And then there's a section on licensing requirements for external users. This part makes it clear that external users, not employees or typical contractors, must also be licensed properly. It lays out that external access, whether via Power Pages or Power Automate flows, still requires the right
Right, they leave no
licenses.
room for ambiguity there. Plus, there's information on trials and development. For those looking to get started without commitment, free trials for Power Apps, Power Pages, Power Automate, and even Copilot Studio are provided. And there's a free developer plan mentioned for individual learning.
Yeah, that's super helpful for startups and developers. The guide isn't just about products, it also dives into support plans. There are options like professional direct support for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, priced at around $9 per licensed user per month, though with a cap on the maximum number of licenses.
Right? And that support element ties everything together because managing these licenses requires good oversight. Speaking of oversight, have you noticed the detailed change log? It gives us dates and specifics on what's changed in the licensing over time, like the updates for Copilot Studio, AI Builder rate card changes, and even rebranding details.
Yeah, it's like keeping a diary of licensing evolution. Super useful if you need to track compliance or manage cost adjustments over time. One thing I really appreciate is the guide's emphasis on staying up to date. Microsoft reserves the right to update these documents without notice, so customers are advised to always use the latest version. It's a reminder to check in on your licensing periodically.
Definitely, that can save a lot of headache later. I have a quick question about managed environments. It seems that these environments, which come with standalone licenses or pay-as-you-go meters, ensure that all active usage in that environment is properly managed. How does that work in practice?
Well, managed environments essentially are like governance hubs. Once enabled, any app, flow, bot, or website operating in that environment automatically needs to be covered by a standalone license or meter. It's a way to ensure that usage isn't evading proper licensing. Yes, and it's crucial for enterprises that run multiple workloads within a single tenant. It helps in monitoring and adherence to
Yeah,
licensing
it adds a
boundaries.
layer of control. Now, let's touch on the connectors. The guide distinguishes between standard connectors, which cover Microsoft 365 services like Outlook or SharePoint, and premium connectors that reach out to third-party services like DocuSign or Zendesk. And then there are
Right, and
custom
this
connectors for
affects the
bespoke
licensing because some
solutions.
scenarios require premium licensing if you're using those advanced connectors. Exactly. And going back to our earlier point, If a flow is built entirely for a Power App's internal functions, it's covered under the Power Apps license. But if that same flow goes off on its own, then a full Power Automate license is needed.
That's a subtle but important nuance. I was also struck by how the guide explains the concept of service credits across AI Builder and Copilot Studio. It makes you think of credits like points in a game that get deducted as you power through AI tasks.
Haha, very true. It really gamifies the whole pricing model, right? And these service credits are pooled at the tenant level, so you have visibility over how many credits you're using across various solutions. That kind of oversight is invaluable for budgeting AI workloads.
Absolutely, especially when credits don't carry over month to month and you need to plan for peak usage. And speaking of budgeting, the detailed rate cards and table summaries for each product really help in approximating costs. For instance, with AI Builder, knowing that certain text operations cost just fractions of a cent per thousand tokens is critical for cost
Right, with such
estimations.
micro pricing, overages can add up quickly if you're not monitoring usage. To wrap up, this licensing guide is both a technical manual and a strategic tool. It helps organizations decide which licenses work best for their needs, whether it's a broad, enterprise wide subscription or targeted licenses for specific apps or flows.
Exactly, it's tailored to be both comprehensive and admittedly a bit overwhelming. Yeah, it might feel like a maze at first, but once you break it down into its components, Power Apps, Automate, Copilot Studio, Power Pages, AI Builder, Dataverse, you can start seeing how each piece fits together.
Right? It's like assembling a puzzle. Each license type, connector, or capacity meter is a unique piece of the overall picture. And for anyone navigating this world, it's always best practice to consult directly with your Microsoft account team or a certified partner. They can guide you through these nuances, ensuring compliance and optimal licensing efficiency.
Absolutely, expert guidance is key here. Before we sign off, any final thoughts on managed updates and the importance of staying current?
Oh, definitely. Since Microsoft can update these requirements without notice, regularly checking the latest licensing guide is critical. You wouldn't want to make decisions based on outdated information, right? It's like trying to navigate with an old map when the terrain has changed. You need the current version to avoid pitfalls.
Definitely, and it also helps in catching new features like the managed environments updates or Copilot Studio enhancements that have been introduced recently. This conversation has been a whirlwind tour through a vast licensing landscape. It really underscores how complex and powerful the Power Platform ecosystem is.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much thought goes into licensing these tools to match modern business needs. And remember, everyone, whether you're rolling out apps, automating processes, deploying AI, or managing a suite of websites, the licensing structure is designed to scale with your use cases. It's just a matter of aligning your business requirements with the right combination of license types
Spot
and
on.
capacity add-ons.
Well, that wraps up our conversation on the Power Platform Licensing Guide. Thanks for staying with us through all these details. It's been a deep and engaging session.
Right. Thanks everyone for listening and keep those licenses in check.